Welcome back to another episode of Cados Co. I'm joined by a man who's revolutionised the industry, someone that I would call a friend and a mentor in and around the space, and the man who's invented and just driven the whole Blue Abroad machine. I've got Terry Dehgani. Terry, how are you, mate?
That's some intro. Thank you very much.
I feel like I got to work on my intros.
No, that was, you pumped me up. That was very good, mate. I love this. This is cool.
Well, we're just at the pub.
Yeah, yeah, this is great.
We've spoken about getting something like this off the ground. Are you surprised? You know, I do a lot of talk when we talk. I don't follow through with some of the stuff, but I've got something off the ground.
No, I'm not surprised. I mean, we've spoken many times off camera. I think we have our yearly Carlton Melbourne preview chat, and then we seem to have our yearly, debrief of life and where things are going. And yeah, I could just tell you we're ready to turn the corner back into last year and just get back to Caden again. And you did tell me that you were going to do something like this, and I did believe this one. I always felt that you were just getting ready to just get back into your own lane and drive your next layer.
Yeah. Well, I think reflecting when we caught up, and I don't mind getting deep, and I hope you don't mind getting deep, and it's very early on the pod, very early in the morning.
First question straight into it. This is what we're here for. I love it.
Haven't even had a beer. But at that point when we caught up, that's probably as lost as I've ever been with content. And I think might be fascinating to hear. And it's fascinating for me to reflect like that, because you get 10 years in and you sort of picture, when I'm 10 years in, I'll be an expert. But then you get 10 years in and you go, I don't know what the fuck I'm going to do next year, and I don't know what content I want to make. And when we caught up, I was just a bit all over the shop. It felt like.
You're also fatigued from the year. A footy year comes and
big
goes.
Burnout.
Yeah, it happens.
But no, it was good. You got me on the straight and narrow, and now we're here. We're kicking. What's been going on with you? The footy season's just about to kick off. It's all about to get into full swing. How's your last little bit been?
Yeah, good. As you said, end of the year, a bit burnt out. I was, much the same. I live and breathe everything that happens with the Carlton Football Club. And so when 2025 happens, I try and separate myself from the results. And I actually do that pretty well, I think, better than what I used to. But it was still pretty grim to follow and just absorb I live in the fans' sentiment. So you absorb what you're around. So it was tough and it was taxing, but also a blessing. I love what I do. So I just got away, literally out of the country, and spent a few months in Thailand and unplugged and then reconnected. And by the time I was back in Australia, middle of January, I should say, I was ready to launch. I think for me anyway, I think you need to give your thoughts space to create. We're constantly plugged in and there's all sorts of information coming into the brain. But yeah, for me, it was just so important to just get away and unplug, and I'm back and ready to go again. And yeah.
Where does 2025 rank, from a Carlton supporter's perspective? Now, I'll give a little bit of context to anyone who hasn't seen Terry's work, but you are, you create content on being a fan and being a Carlton fan. And you've ridden the highs and lows. There's been a few lows across the YouTube career, unfortunately, with following the Baggers, similar with me following the Ds. And, I'm quite close with Connor, and I love the Blues. I've seen similarities the whole way through. We were going through rebuilds. The Blues were going through rebuilds. We were making the 8 when the Blues were making the 8. We've sort of followed a similar path. We've had multiple coaches. And 2025 really hit Rog to a point where he disconnected.
Yep.
And that's not him. Me and Connor live and breathe SEN. We live and breathe AFL 360. We are addicted to football. He has multiple Supercoach teams and footy tipping, and he fully disconnected. And it sucked, to be honest, because even though the D's had a shocking year, we got rid of our coach. I couldn't talk to him like we normally do about footy because he just wasn't into it. He said that off the back of the expectation, it was one of the hardest years to be a Blues supporter. So where does it rank for you?
It's right down there with one of the worst seasons. I think, for me, when I started doing the channel, it was 2018. We won 2 games. But at that point, it was still, we're building towards the future and we're rebuilding, and Charlie Curnow and Harry Mackay are little puppies, and, one day they'll grow into...
Wiedering, Walshy. Yeah. Cripper's still young, hasn't quite fulfilled the potential.
Exactly. So last 2025 was, all right, they're all adults, well and truly. They've had 4, 5, 6, 7 preseasons, some of them even more. And yeah, you're right. Expectations made it worse given where the results went. And one dick pic led to the next bad thing, led to the next injury, led to the next thing. And then it was just dysfunctional. And like the fans, you don't know what's going on, but you can feel when your team's not on the same page. And it was pretty clear early on that things were not aligned. And yeah, I reckon by round 15, it was like pretty dead. And I remember like having to, I choose to front up and I choose to do what I do. But I remember thinking, all right, just buckle up because it's about to get really nasty and just bad and just negative. And yeah, but that's footy.
How do you navigate when it does get negative? Like, it's pretty tough for you. Like, you are the voice of the fans. And this is something that I've struggled with, the sort of internal question about my own morality, I guess. But it's like, with me, there'll be a change at the AFL. They'll change a rule. And in my head, I go, I actually like the sound of this rule change. Like, that's exciting. Wildcard round, for example. That's really exciting. I think more teams making the finals. It's good for the comp. It gives that bye round, something to play for. If you're not in the top 6 anyway, you're not making. So I get excited by change and innovation. But and say I wanted to make content on that. If I'm positive, people say like, "Oh, you're bored out by the AFL." When I'm literally a positive person who loves innovation and change, and I know that being negative, it will actually help my brand. Like, it'll help get the followers. If you're negative and you question, the league or whatever, it proves that you're on the side of the fan. But it's not really who I am. So I just, try and be honest, and I'm naturally positive. So with your stuff, like, it's hard because you got to toe the line where like you might be positive and you want to be a supporter and you're supporting the club. But it would probably be in your best interest to be like the wild, like outspoken island channel that is super negative and pots the club. And like, how do you find the balance between trying to navigate that?
You're right. I could be loud and angry and emotional and I would make a lot more money and I would be a lot more famous and have a lot more of my videos shared and all of that. Yeah, it's an ethical choice for sure. But the way I'm wired, and I'm sure you're the same, I'm an optimist by nature. And the way that I live my life, like, shit happens. Life is dark. The world's dark. For me, footy's meant to be joyful. And so the key process in my mind is no matter how bad it is right now, things will always keep moving. Like, it was a shocking year last year. Yeah, got to round 15, lost to North, got touched up at the MCG, season over, all of that. Like, it got bad, it got worse. But then there's always...
Did you lose to North in the last round?
No, round 15.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, but I think that was the real final nail in the coffin of the season. If it wasn't round 1 against the Tigs.
Yeah.
Seth Campbell doing backflips.
Oh, no.
Yeah. But, I mean, footy is meant to be joyful. Footy doesn't stop. And if there's not a game the next week, there'll be a game the next year and things keep moving. So my ethos is just keep moving no matter what, because you can crash out. You can, but then that's only a moment in time. There'll be a game next week and you kind of got to like get on with it. So yeah, I've learned that over the years to just don't get stuck in the mud no matter how bad it is. And I mean, we're fans. Nothing we say will really change the result. If anything, we have a responsibility, especially the ones that, those of us who have audiences and platforms and, we can amplify anything, whether it's positive or negative.
Yeah.
And so I think with Carlton, given how big it is and how much one little story can become so big, I think it's important that we don't become part of the problem. We try and become part of the solution. So yeah, to answer your question, just keep moving on. And I'm not one for the
salacious.
I'm playing the long game. I'm not playing the short, quick game. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's a tricky world where like the negativity, it gets rewarded. And like for me, I'm not like a fan channel, but I am a fan that has an audience, but I just want to support. And I've always just been a supporter. Like the D's will win 2 games a year in 2013. And I was never on the sack Neild bandwagon. I was on the Neild needs some support, and I'm a supporter. I want to back Neild in. Now, he got sacked. And everyone wanted him sacked. But it was similar like last year. Like, there was a lot of D's pages and channels and whatnot really big on get rid of Goody. And I'm in this position where Simon Goodwin, there's family members of Goody who like follow my stuff. And I chat to them every now and again. And like, even if that wasn't the case and I didn't have that bias, I still just want to back our head coach in. He's won us a flag 3 years ago. Like, I'm not putting his head on a stake. I want to see if he can see it through. And when Goody comes out in a presser and says, look, we're working on things and we're trying to shift some things, I don't sit there and go, bullshit, mate. I go, awesome. Like, he's a great coach. He's a great leader. He's been a great servant of our club. But then on the flip side, when the club decides to move on from Goody, I'm like, great. Well, that felt like a pragmatic decision, a great decision at the time. They didn't react after the Naz loss. The writing was on the wall probably at 0-5, and they've waited till they couldn't wait any longer. But I'm not, uproar against the club. It's almost about like trusting in the people at the club, which can be hard at times, and just supporting, just being a supporter.
I mean, look, at the end of the day, I think it's everything. You can say whatever you want. I do believe that. It's just about delivery. And I think if you can try and separate, this is what I think, and also be supportive. I mean, for example, we take Michael Voss. Like, I'm Team Voss. I want it to work with Michael Voss. I don't know if it will.
Yeah.
But I want it to. I don't want us to go through another coach. I don't think grass is always green on the other side. So, like, my opinion is I want it to work with Voss, and we need to put support around him, and we're going to get the best of Michael Voss as a coach, leading his coaching group, and the team will be better. But if the club at the end of the year decide this is it, we're going to move on, well, then I'll just get on with it. Yeah, like I said, everything keeps moving, and it's a tricky one because people want you sometimes. You can get pigeonholed. Like, people want you to say what they believe.
100%, especially when you've got the platform and you've got the audience and you're not reacting emotionally like they are. And it's not because you're putting on an act or anything. It's just naturally, you're seeing how it plays out and not being emotional. And it can be really hard. Like, there's been multiple times people say, oh, you're not actually a true fan because you're not screaming on the camera right now. And I go, well, I go to every game and I go to trainings and 25 years consecutive member. I feel like I'm pretty rusted on, but I don't feel like putting myself out there being reactive was going to help anything. No, and all I want to do is almost like just be this sort of stoic supporter of the club. Now, if you sit next to me at the G, I'm not very stoic at times, but I don't necessarily like want to react straight after a game and mouth off. And I think that it almost feels weak. Like, it's entertaining for everyone. Like, if I chuck my vlog camera on and go, oh, what the fuck, we've lost again, this is bullshit, very entertaining. But it almost feels like that's showing a sign of weakness where I've reacted and given in. And I just want to navigate and be this stoic supporter and ultimately just keep being positive.
Yeah, game day, you'll never see me do game day vlogs. You'll never see me do watch-alongs because that's my time to like fucking let loose. I say things during games that I would never say, when I'm calmed down. Like, so it's like, what's the real you? Is it in the game or is it once you've had a sleep and you can like think about it, So, and I mean, the fan cams as well. Like, obviously I'm garnering the fan reaction, but my big thing with the fan cams is I don't let people, go to a point of no return. I think there's a responsibility as a host of something like that where you're getting the instant fan reaction. It can be emotional. I think, there's a responsibility to make sure that they don't say things that they're going to regret. And I haven't always been that way, but I've learned over the last few years that, there's a responsibility when you're hosting something like that.
100%. Well, touching on the fan cams, what an innovation, firstly, like in the industry. I was chatting to Jamo last week. I felt like in 2019 or 2020, he started pumping out podcast clips, and I'd never seen anyone pump out podcast clips to that volume. I actually don't think I'd ever really seen people cut their podcast and put it out in the way that they did. And I was just giving him some flowers going, mate, I'd never seen that in the industry. That's so cool. And similarly with you, the fan cam stuff, I think early days, if I recall correctly, you were doing some fan reaction stuff out the front of the G early, and then COVID hit and there was no real place to do that. And then you went on to a streaming software, I think Riverside, and you started inviting some of the fans in from their own homes. And I thought like after COVID left, you'd go back to the G and, start doing them there. But you continued to do them on your YouTube channel live straight away after the games. And it's become this like genuine phenomenon in the AFL space where everyone talks about the Blue Abroad fan cams. Have you been surprised how much like it's grown and taken off? And I suppose what's your view on what it is? Like, what is it?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, so I was living overseas. I came back to Australia and I was inspired by AFTV. And so the idea was come home, start interviewing fans outside the MCG and Marvel after games and go from there. So I came home mid-2019, David Teague's first game as coach. I don't know if you remember, Cripps had 38 kick 4 that day at Marvel Stadium against the Lions. Sorry.
I do remember that. That was like
I know Connor Rogers will remember that. And then, did that for the rest of 2019 and then COVID hit 2020 and I'm like, oh, we're in trouble here. Like, I've just broken up with my girlfriend and come to chase this dream and we're cooked. And then started doing a little bit of live streaming through AFL Evolution. So we started doing the 2-on-2s and things like that.
Yeah, I remember playing a lot of AFL Evolution against you back in 2019.
You and Cooko, me and Pommy, one of the greatest matches of all time. And then that was my first introduction into streaming. I would never have thought that I'd be doing live streaming. And then 2020, Carlton played Fremantle. Jack Noons kicked the goal after the siren.
Wow.
To win the game. And that was the first fan cams after that game. And we were in lockdown, we're in Melbourne, and initially it was just, how can we get people not thinking about the fact that we're locked down and we're going through this really tough time right now. And so for about an hour and a half, 2 hours a week, not only were we had completely forgotten about lockdown, but we were talking about footy and we were excited and talking about the future. And to answer your question, no, I didn't think it would become what it has. I don't even know where it's going to go from here. But at the end of the day, fans will call in after the game and I love it. I love capturing it.
It's almost like the 2026, well, I guess the 2020 version when you started it, but it's almost like talkback radio. That's what it feels like. That's what it looks like. But a modern version where people can get their face on the YouTube channel. I remember watching it years ago and it might have had, 100, 150, 200 viewers, which is a lot. Like 200 people concurrently watching your stream is a ton. And that's like that 200 people watching an AFL stream of any sort is sort of the industry standard. And then across the last few years, what's the highest you've had concurrently? I reckon it's into the thousands. Well, I've definitely seen it into the thousands.
Yeah. So after Richmond round 1 last year, we had 2,600 people watching.
Oh my God.
Because that was the meltdown of all meltdowns.
Yeah.
And that was like, people love watching other fans react to their team losing. And I think a lot of non-Carlton fans get entertained by Carlton fans getting emotional after a bad Carlton loss. So that was crazy. That was like, I remember in that moment thinking, I don't know, like, where do we go from here? But 2,600 people watched that night. I actually enjoy the wins so much more than the losses.
100%.
Because when you're losing, you get opposition fans and they'll want to poke in the live chat and it just sort of disrupts the flow of the fans and people start fighting with each other. And I'm a one-man band on the fan cam. So I'm interviewing, trying to listen to the person who's on there, plus moderate the live chat, and you've got sexy 69 putting comments in there and all sorts of stuff. And but when we win, there's just magic in the place.
Yeah, well, it's just like any other supporter would feel similar. Like your team wins, you go to the pub and you chat for hours about the result and what it means and what took place and who played well. And if you lose, you're sort of consoling each other, talking about like, just about the results. So you've built this platform and this vessel for anyone in the Carlton Footy Club fraternity, like any supporter to come and feel connected. And like the debrief, for example, I've been on it occasionally across the last couple of years, but before that I listened to it heavily in 2021. And what I loved about it was, if I tuned into SEN, I'd wait a 3-hour show and they'd touch on the Ds for 10 minutes and they'd get a couple names wrong. They'd go, that Adam Neil Bullen was good. And I'm like, you guys like don't really know the club as much as I do. But then I tune into the debrief and they're talking about blokes in the twos who are coming up and like they are Melbourne experts and it's a Melbourne show for an hour and a half. And I was like, well, I'm not tuning in to AFL 360 to watch them talk for 5 minutes. I'm going to tune into the debrief. And that's the power of the fan stuff. It's like for any Carlton supporter, it's just such an awesome piece of content to go to because you get your Carlton fix, but also like the community aspect. Like, are you surprised by how big of a community the Blue Abroad fan cams are?
Yeah, of course. I mean, we had our season launch last Friday, and just to give you an example, we had a lady named Jen who lives in rural Queensland, middle of nowhere in a caravan with her dog. And she flew down to Melbourne for 24 hours just to be at the event. So, yeah, the magic of it. And I mean, I think Carlton fans a lot of the time will get painted with this brush. You know, they're just so emotional and they're toxic and they're like it. But there are some really special people in the Carlton community, like any club, and in the Blue Abroad community. And they're just so, I don't know, they just cultivate this energy that I think makes footy what it is. Like footy's meant to be joyful, and it's the good people that make it joyful. And yeah, I never thought it would be. I never thought I would have people so passionate about what I'm doing as what some people are. So
yeah, it's crazy. The numbers are off the chart. Like there's not many people in the AFL space live streaming that would get anywhere near that amount. I guess with the size of the audience now, do you feel like a certain pressure? Has it changed like your nerves before you go on air? Because it is a big amount of people. Like how has hopping on the fan cams and firing them up changed across the last couple of years for you?
Well, I think there's a responsibility. I think anytime you're garnering any form of influence, whether it's through attention, eyeballs, whatever it is, we can't sit here and say, oh no, we're just podcasters and we're just content create. Like, no, we're in 2026 now and we're not guinea pigs to what social media is. So we can't play I'm just a little guy over here with a little podcast. But there's a responsibility, and I think early days there was no template for me to go off. I didn't have other people in the space to ask questions of. So yeah, I got it wrong early days. I let people get a little too emotional. I got a little too emotional in what I was saying. And so probably the first 2-3 years, I mean, I wouldn't say I crossed the line and went too personal with anyone. Some things happened people would call in and do stupid shit like early internet days. But honestly, I just think, like I said earlier, my role in the fan cams, for example, is to facilitate the discussion. And people will call in and I will have a read on, okay, if this person's really fired up, well, let's capture the moment. Let's make sure that we get their point across, but don't allow them to do or say something that I think they're going to regret and go a little too far. And so it's a judgment call.
That's hard for you to control.
It is hard.
Out of your control. But that's what's so exciting about the fan cams is it's live and you don't know what's going to happen. And, ultimately 97% of them, it's raw, it's emotional, it's well-informed footy supporters talking about their club and capturing that and sharing that. It's the sharing of that, which is awesome. It's like, as I said, when I tune into the debrief, it's like, great, I'm feeling heard. Like people are mentioning things that I saw from my position at the G that they're referencing that won't be spoken about on any other show. So it's awesome that and that's what builds the community. Everyone is sharing in the experience that they had at the G immediately.
Yeah. And then there's the other part too. People are calling in, whether it's from their living room, from outside the stadium. Mate, we get at least 3 or 4 people that call from another country. So they'll be in Italy, Greece, in the summer months.
Keeps the abroad part of Blue Abroad intact.
No, it really does. People will call in from all parts of the world, and that was the vision at the start. Because Blue Abroad it was less about I am the Blue Abroad and I'm one guy that's living overseas, because that's where I was at the start. It's more around the concept of, we are Blues and we are everywhere.
Yeah, well, I think that's what, I'm not sure, maybe Carlton supporters do realise this, but, across the last couple of years, when they hunt in packs and they're negative, and probably understandably given some of the results, it can at times paint this perception of the Blues that it is this sort of like negative, down and out supporter base. I think Vossi even touched on it at times. And well, Paul Roos, I know I keep referring to lived experience that I've had, but Paul Roos mentioned towards the end of his little stay at the D's that there's this veil of negativity, and he goes, once the supporters in the club, instead of being in a game going, oh, we'll lose this one, we always lose it. It's like once you shift that mindset, that's when you can free yourself. But I almost view that with the Blues. It's like once they realise how big they are, how powerful they are, how loud they are. I love going to a Carlton game. They always show up in numbers. They're always passionate. They're always loud. I think, and I don't know how like a collective group would realise this, but when they do, and when you guys start winning games, it's going to be awesome to see, because it is as big as the Tigers and the Hawks and, up and around the Pies numbers. It is a big army of people.
Yeah. I think with the fan base, and this is just my opinion, when the fan base more or less lose trust in the leadership of the club, that's when things turn nasty. And last year, the president, like from the top, it fell. And the trust was disintegrated pretty quickly in the year. And that's when it starts getting pretty negative. And, we're in the online world now. And so a negative clip will get amplified. The optimistic and the practical clips don't get posted because it's not popular. So yeah, and I understand I play a role in that as well. Like that's why I don't want my channel to be. I want my channel to have a level of professionalism to it and a level of practicality to it, and also just understanding like I'm not an expert. I don't position myself as an expert at all. Like I think we should be listening more than we speak. So I facilitate 100%. The discussion more than what I'm telling the person, this is how it is, and this is my mail. Like I get a lot of information sent to me that I don't talk about on camera because I'm not trying to be the journo. I'm not trying to be first in to break the news. That's not my go. I'm just reacting to what is or what does happen.
100%. Across the last 12 months, though, obviously there's been a little bit of change and whatnot, but going into 2026, is your trust as a supporter with the club better, or like how has that relationship felt?
Yeah, best it's been in years, I'd say.
What have they done? What sort of stuff have they done?
Brought the right people in, I think. Like I think Graham Wright's been a great addition, like a football-focused CEO who's got a really strong list management background and those sorts of things. And he's been at Collingwood, he's been at Hawthorn. Chris Davies is going to be one of the most underrated appointments in footy.
I used to love during trade period, Chris Davies would rock up and talk about the power, and he just had this mongrel about him, but also wouldn't waste a word, so articulate. So when the Blues acquired him, I'm like, oh, that's a good get.
Yeah. And it's might not be a popular topic to talk about, but yeah, your head of footy is really important. So those two, I get a lot of trust. The new president that came in, well, he was on the board last year and he was appointed. He seems pretty chilled and calm, and he's not really like, when you picture a Carlton president, you might think of like a real big, character and a big personality. This guy's pretty chill, pretty reserved, and pretty measured. And then I think with Carlton, there's just so many players that were on the list last year that had bad years that want to respond, combined with new guys that have come from outside the club that want to prove themselves in a new environment and they've got the fresh start, combined with this whole ecosystem that wants to be better. And I just think it's the perfect storm for the club to just reboot.
To bounce.
Yeah. So I'm optimistic and hopeful and positive and excited again. And I love the footy. Like,
yeah,
I don't, whether we win or lose, I won't be, if we lose, I'll be like pissed off in the moment, but straight away I'm looking at, all right, the solutions. It's always about solutions for me. I think that's the way you keep the conversation moving.
There was a lot of change, obviously, like you just mentioned at the top, but then on field. And how do you feel when you're losing A graders, people, as a supporter, you've invested 8 to 10 years in, and you've seen glimpses of their potential, in TDK, and you've lost a father-son in Silvani, and then a bona fide star in Kerno, and a couple others probably. But like, how did you feel with that? Could you take the glass half full? Did it feel like a nice reset? Or how do you sort of absorb that?
It was the kind of big move or series of big moves that Carlton needed after what had happened last year. And like I said at the start.
So you felt like, A graders needed to move on?
Something big like that, something nuclear like that needed to happen.
Yeah.
Because otherwise we'd have sacked Vossi and got the next coach in and done it all over again.
Yeah.
And the onus has to be on the playing group a little bit more than what it has been, in my opinion. And yeah, I mean, to your point earlier around, being optimistic and being hopeful. So the Curnow situation, he came out and said, I want to be here. I'm staying. That's it. I fully believed him. So I pushed back on people saying, no, he's lying. No, he's checked out. I'm like, no, the guy was injured, didn't have a preseason. And so it turned out he was lying.
Yeah. He came out, there was an interview when he went to Sydney and he goes, yeah, I didn't want to say that, but I got told to say that.
That pissed me off.
Yeah, I know.
Just own it. You can do whatever you want in your life. It's your life. You're the star. We pay tickets to watch you play. Like, you are in
10
control.
years of service, couple of Colemans. Like, you're probably not going to be in our next premiership. Let's all sort of move on as quickly as we can. Like, we can get over that, but don't tell us you're staying.
You get your manager to shop you around, then go to the club the next day and say, oh, what do you want me to say? I don't fucking know, mate. About fucking I want to be here. How about that? So, I think it needed to happen, and good luck to all of them. I think at the end of the day, and I said this yesterday in a video about Sam Walsh re-signing, I think the really strong and pure leaders are the ones that they want the feedback. Like they yearn for it. They want to be better. And I just think a guy like Curnow, I think he just takes life in a way that maybe a lot more people should. He doesn't take footy too seriously. He just wants to live a good life. It can be pretty intense living in the Melbourne bubble. I can only imagine what it's like.
I think, he's a Torquay lad, grew up down where I grew up. And just seeing him navigate the industry now, I don't have any connection with Charlie Curnow at all. But just watching the kid from our area get drafted I remember after his first season, once he started playing, he had that big game against the Tigers, and soon after it was that big 5-year deal for $800K. And I remember looking, going, "Oh man, his personality wouldn't be enjoying this." Yeah. And I think it appeared as if he'd given as much as he could, and just sort of accepted that he needed a bit of change. Which I think is good for everyone. And it is weird, removing a couple of A graders. It might actually make you guys play better. It felt like there was this imbalance that was happening at the club for a while, where you were you had one of the best cores in the whole competition, but it wasn't working. And maybe sort of removing some of the top end A graders and getting in 2 B graders for that A grader in every line, which you've pretty much done, it might actually help you bounce.
I think it will, in theory. I mean, everything in theory works.
Yeah.
Everyone's got a logical reason why things will work. But yeah, someone said something recently to me, which I think summarised it well. Carlton had 6 main characters and then everyone else.
Yeah.
And so we've stripped that back a bit and put more of an even spread.
Yeah, it's exciting. It feels like, you've removed Curnow, and this might be crazy to say, but it feels like the forward line as a whole's gotten a little bit better. You've removed a Silvani, but the defence still feels really strong. Pitney's always been good in the ruck, so it doesn't feel like you've lost out heaps in your ruck stocks. And then you've got a lot of young players coming through. So it's a weird one where you might have taken 3 of your top 4 away from the team, but what you've added, your overall team score hasn't changed that much.
Look, we'll wait and see. Like I said earlier, logic. Everyone's got a logical reason why something may or may not happen. And logically, I think a lot of people will look at things on paper. Carlton had a great list on paper 12 months ago. And on paper, it seems like they've lost a few, A graders. I still think Charlie was the only A grader of the 3 that left. I think Dehghani is yet to become an A grader, but I'm pretty sure he will.
I was going to say, do you think he will?
Yeah, I do think he will.
I've loved him for years. I love his profile. Yeah. I love the leap. I love, the agility and whatnot. And then he has a bit of go about him. He was this light frame, but with the long hair, he flies for it. And I think there's a bravery in flying for the footy.
Totally. He plays in the most, you need to be pretty courageous to be a ruck.
Yeah.
Get knees thrown at you all game. So, I actually love Tom.
Yeah.
I've met him many times.
Beautiful
and
soul.
I actually love Tom a lot. And like, I do wish him all the best. And, it is what it is. And Silvani, look, he wasn't an A grader. He had a really good year last year when he did play. Got thrown back into defence, which God knows why that didn't happen earlier.
Yeah, it's in his bloodline that he can play
Who would have
beautifully in defence.
So, yeah, it is what it is. I think now it puts the spotlight on the players a bit. And then also Carlton also added more support for Michael Voss. So we've got independent consultant in Adam Simpson for him. We've added Travis Boak to now this leadership and culture profile. Assistant coaches, their roles have changed. They've added a few more. And, yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
No, it's exciting. I'd love to see it. I'd love to see the baggers bounce. I think, it shouldn't be less than 10th. Like, at least they should be making some sort of finals. So, yeah, I'm pumped. That should be exciting. How's your relationship with the club? Because, obviously you are an independent, but you also have a little bit of leverage. Not that, not more leverage than the club per se, but you have built an audience and you do have a voice. So, what sort of relationship do you have with the club? Do you have one? And is it something you want to foster, or is it like, do you want to stick in your own lane and stay vehemently independent?
We've had this conversation for many years. I would say right now is the best it's ever been. I think...
Do you reckon that's because you've identified what you want to be and they've identified what you are, and it's sort of taken the ambiguity out of it?
I think I'm a lot more settled in what I do. And I think that has a lot to do with it. I think at the start, it was all new. That, like, you look at it now, there's so many fan channels and Carlton podcasts, but back then when I started, it just wasn't the case. So I didn't know exactly what I was doing. I think at the start I wanted some sort of appreciation from the club and some sort of acknowledgement and a subconscious thanks.
Did you ever want to roll at the club?
Nah, not really. I mean, so when I got back, I had applied for a role. This was before anything with the channel took off. This was before it moved to YouTube.
Yeah.
I had applied for a role. I think it was like AFLW social media coordinator, something like that. I didn't get that. And I think that was a real blessing.
And I started a YouTube channel and I started speaking.
No, I think it was a blessing because I wouldn't change what's happened, for the world. So I moved on to YouTube end of 2019, January 1st, 2020, sort of kicked off. And then, just kept going from there. I've had this, it's a really interesting back and forth with the club and the media manager. I'm at this point now where we've built this trust where I can get strong feedback from them when they need to give it to me, and I can give it back to them. And we have this we've hit this zone. Ultimately, I don't think we will cross over and I'll work for the club. I think we work in parallel because I'm independent.
Well,
they can't tell me everything.
I was about to say that, watching you and a couple other fan channels come up, since 2019, and it's also been something that I've grappled with a little bit. It's, I'll just speak anecdotally, but for years I wanted to be in the media or be at the AFL. Like, I thought YouTube was a stepping stone to get me the career. And it was really weird, the epiphany that I had probably in the last 18 months where, Channel 9 have started a YouTube footy show and Fox Footy started a YouTube footy show, and all these channels are pumping out pretty much full episodes on YouTube, and everyone who meets me goes, "Oh, you're on YouTube." It was weird. I was sort of working to leave YouTube, and then I got to a point where everyone's coming to you. I don't know. The epiphany that I had, and the awareness that I had was, I don't know. It sort of took me off guard, but it took me years to learn that maybe the grass isn't always greener, and maybe I'm where I'm supposed to be.
I love hearing that from you.
Yeah. But for years there was this I guess because I hadn't identified that, maybe that came through when I was trying to work on stuff with the Ds where they're like, are you the media guy? Are you independent? Are you like, I don't know, the lack of definition probably made it, like, there was so much grey area working with the AFL and whatnot that, yeah, it's probably hard to define what I did. And when people can't define it, they don't know. Like, they don't know what you're trying to achieve. So for me, like, now I've sort of realised that I don't really want to get into the media. Like, I wouldn't mind a couple of part-time gigs or whatever that pop up, but I'm not really striving to be on radio or be on TV. I'm actually striving to make YouTube, which it probably sounds stupid because, you know, haven't you done that for 10 years? But no, I haven't. Like, I'm actually making YouTube to be on YouTube now, which is a weird definition. I don't know how I was going to wrap this up, but I wanted to get it back to you about, like, what I wanted to touch on was, like, the awareness of being independent, because I've seen other fan channels not realise the power of their independence, but also not realise that they're in the independent category. And they've grappled, like, why isn't the club hitting me up? Why aren't I working with the club? Why is there distance between me and the club? Like, all I want to do is be a voice for the club. And it's like they hadn't identified at the time that, like, you're very separate and there's power in the separation. Because you can't be independent and speaking out against the club at times, which you need to do, and that's why the fans love these fan channels, but then also work with the club. There actually has to be a bit of a gap. And I think identifying that you are independent is like a power, like a superpower.
You're spot on. You said this to me years ago. I don't think I had grasped it at the time, but I think, yeah, over the last year or so, I definitely I've fully become comfortable with that separation. And it's interesting what happened when I got comfortable with that separation, how much better the relationship with the club got. I mean, all clubs will they're trying to control the message and the narrative from their point of view and the sentiment, and that's their job for whatever reason. And so I get it, to have someone, you know, that you're aligned with that might also speak out. I'd like to think when I do speak out against the club, I do it in a way that is, for the most part, constructive, solutions-based. I always leave room for the unknown, that I'm a fan. I don't know what happened day to day. I don't know if some of these guys might have been up late. Next door neighbour was causing a ruckus and they didn't sleep enough and affected their performance. So I always leave the room.
That awareness of that is brilliant, I think, by the way, as a supporter. Like, we don't see it enough. Like, team selection will come out and everyone goes, how the fuck did this guy get dropped? Or how is this guy not picked? He's been playing well in the VFL. And little do you know, like, I always think, well, I feel like the selection board would know more than us. And you just speaking about, like, did he get the right sleep? Like, there's so many, like, middle of the week, you know, wife's gone to hospital and he actually can't be selected. But the supporters don't understand the nuance and the awareness, and they'll just say, "Oh, what the club's lost it." It's like
no transparency.
Yeah, I feel like the club has the most amount of information, and they are trying to make the best decision. They're never picking a team or, like, making a decision that's ill-informed.
Yeah,
and we're not informed.
They want to win. Like, they don't purposely want to lose. They don't want to have abuse hurled at them after a game. Like, they actually try and make decisions to win. So, yeah, it's been a good journey of just learning and understanding. I think, honestly, it's just growing up. And that's where I think the content space doesn't get spoken about a lot. But, yeah, we talk about our footy clubs and the league, but this is a real big journey in personal development. And the person you were when you were doing your streams early days to today, I mean, you're a totally different guy. You've matured. Your priorities have changed now, you know, on the camera, off the camera. And yeah, there's a bit of personal development in there.
100%. I think to sort of go back to that independent point that I was making, I think a big example of that and the power of being independent across the industry in the last 24 months is probably Dan Gorringe. When he first... And this is me just viewing from afar and just sort of tracking how he's gone throughout the industry. But when he first finished up at the Blues, he went into Big Brother. And then when he came out of Big Brother, I remember seeing him on a couple of panel shows. Like, he was on Channel 7 sort of dipping his feet into the media. And it didn't quite land. And then he went away from that for a little while, still doing some stuff online, which was hilarious. And then he teamed up with Dill and obviously got into the potty game. But seeing his numbers and seeing his output and seeing what he's done in the last 18 to 24 months, I can tell that he's realised the power of being independent. And I haven't spoken to him about this, but if I did, he did because everyone's mindset is like, oh, you got to get into a big media company or whatnot. And I think he had that same mindset. But once he flicked the switch in, oh man, I'm going to be independent and I'm just going to lean into that. And he started being a little bit looser and he started saying crazier stuff. And, there's humor in that. Obviously, he's exaggerating the character. And he garnered a big audience off the back of that. And what I find fascinating to see is this guy that identified he wanted to be independent, steered strongly into that to a point where like he's making content that would have upset everyone in the industry. But then through doing that, he's built this big audience that it's undeniable that people want to work with an audience of that size. And he like swung the leverage back where now he's working with like AFL. Like he's been doing collabs with AFL and he's working with like Channel 7 and KO. And I just think that that's a lesson in being super strong in where you want to go, be super strong in the identification of what you are creating and where you're placed in the industry. Like once he identified that he wasn't in the media and he started going against the media, it's now worked back where the media wants to work with him. So I think just that swinging of the leverage, that's a massive example of it.
Isn't that ironic?
It's so ironic, but it's amazing.
And because the dirty little secret of the industry, I mean, everything's a numbers game. So no matter what you're doing, as long as you got the numbers, they'll want to work with you because they want to make more numbers and they want to use your numbers to make more numbers for them. And so, yeah, I think he's cracked the code, but I think he just really understands the psychology of a footy fan so well, and he just like plays like a piano.
Oh, it's
someone gets injured, it's the same video.
He's Mozart. it's incredible.
It's
well, what I find like so impressive about what he's done is, I would guess that most AFL content creators' fan bases would be, and this is generalization, but it would be like 70%, if not more, 80% male. And, I've been in forums and conversations where people say that the power in garnering a female audience on socials is enormous. Like the biggest podcast, essentially, like in and around, well, I know Joe Rogan's one of the biggest podcasts, but pretty much after Joe, some of the biggest podcasts are female-led. Some of the biggest influencers and most followed people on Instagram are female, like Kylie Jenner and whatnot. So the power in not just having a male audience is important. And I think Gorringe has a big female following. Like my partner even says, when the Blues lose, oh, like I want to see how Dan reacts. So I think he's beautifully like cracked it where he's sort of gotten everyone. Like he's gotten everyone, which is awesome, and that's how you grow the game and whatnot. But he's gotten more than just like the male audience. I think.
Yeah, I think he should be celebrated, and I think the game should be celebrated. And the attitude we have towards Dan, it should be across the league. You touched on being positive earlier and people calling you just like, oh, you're working for the AFL. It's like, well, why don't we just celebrate the game?
Yeah.
So no, I have a lot of respect for what he's done and the barriers that he's broken down, and interesting to see what happens in the next few years, because he sort of leads the charge now for the guy that broke the barriers down. I think having been on the inside as a player and then on the outside now as a fan, I can only imagine that's a big benefit for him because he just understands buttons and how to push them and where to push them. So
he's got the respect from the players as well. Like, I can't imagine someone making his content about players and not playing would have the same respect that he has. Like, I think when he makes a joke about like, oh, come on, man, you got to hit the kick, and he puts it out on Insta, I think players go, well, he's put his body on the line. He's been out here. He knows what it's like to play AFL. So they don't sort of turn their nose up at it. They know that it's coming from a funny, humorous place. They don't get defensive over him because he has played the game.
Yeah.
So I think that's how he's like helped build it as well. Just a respect. I want to touch on the D's and the Blues for a little bit. Roger and I had a podcast many moons ago, the Goes Alright podcast on Spotify, and we'd come into meetings and we'd go, all right, well, the D's top 4 at the moment. We'll talk about them. The Blues pushing the top 8 and blah, 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 blah. We'll talk about them. And we actually got a note, stop talking about Melbourne and Carlton. You talk about them too much. And I went, well, fuck me. Like, I don't know what people would be tuning in for. Half my personality is just bleeds red and blue. And what is hilarious is when we got that note, sort of ever since, whenever Melbourne and Carlton are linked, Roger and I send a screenshot and send it to each other. And we have just been linked ridiculously across the last little bit. Obviously, the semi-final, we played in huge games before then. Like, I think 5 games in a row were decided by a kick. And then last year, we were both 0-4 and 0-5, like the last 2 teams to, it's just, I find it really crazy how closely linked the teams have been across the last little bit. Like even in the last couple of weeks on SEN, they were doing who's going to win more games. And Kane Corns goes, Melbourne or Carlton? And I sent it to Rog, like, what? Don't talk about Melbourne and Carlton. We're linked. We're linked. So I guess I want to go back and talk about some of the crazy games between us. It obviously ends pretty well for you guys, but I want to kick things off with the Cozzy game. What was that like to be at where Cozzy kicks a goal with 11 seconds left after Carlton have led all game? And this was in and around, so you need to beat either Melbourne or Collingwood to make finals for the first time in forever. With 11 seconds to go against the D's, you're up and you're in finals.
We needed to win one of our last 4 games to play finals football. So we got smacked at the Gabba, smacked at Adelaide Oval. Then we went to the MCG and played the D's. I will never forget that. A lot of people will talk about Collingwood the next week after that. But the week before we played the D's, and for the first time in my life, I had that experience where something doesn't go your way, but it happens in slow motion. I remember exactly where I was when Cozzy got that ball, and I almost saw it happening before he kicked it, and everything... honestly, it was like an out-of-body experience. It all went in slow motion and heartbreak.
The kick was so weird because he got slung by Nunes and he just gets boot to ball and it went higher than it went longer. So I'm going, is this going to land on the goal line? Is it going through at least? And then when I identified that it was going through, which meant it was at least a draw, I was like, oh my God, we've gotten away with a draw here because we were getting beaten the whole day. And then, like it went in slow motion because it took about 6 seconds to realise that it just kept floating through. That was a crazy, crazy game. That was ridiculous.
It was amazing.
When you left that one, obviously that set up the Collingwood Carlton match. But what were your thoughts about that?
I was really in that mentality and in that mindset of just keep moving. Just keep moving. It's like, it has to be Collingwood. And I had said something in either in the fan cams that night or in my review of that game where I'm like, it was written in the stars, which people still quote me on that to this day. But like, it was written in the stars. We have to beat Collingwood next week to play finals.
Well, that was like the WWE promoter's dream. Yeah. Like, Carlton have lost in heartbreak. They've lost 3 in a row and they have to verse Collingwood to get into the finals. I thought it was set up for you guys to win.
So did I.
So the next week... similar position, you're up most of the day. And then, well, that season, Collingwood closed everyone down. But I reckon in the third quarter, the Blues went ballistic and you had like a 5-goal lead.
We're up by 23 at 3-quarter time, maybe.
No.
And I'll never forget, Charlie took a mark, start of the 4th, played on.
Like,
what? To this day, I don't know what he was thinking. But
good riddance off the Swans.
That's why I got rid of him. Yeah.
Yeah, you butchered a couple of chances in that last just to put it to bed. And then there was this feeling that the Pies will just keep closing.
Grim Reaper.
Yeah.
Jamie Elliott happened right in front of me. I was in the forward, like on the forward flank, and he was running right in front of me. And then the slow motion thing happened again. And then you know that do you know that white sound that movies have before a nuclear bomb goes off?
Yeah.
Or right after a bomb, it was like white noise and everything was numb. I had a Collingwood supporter turn around to me and say, fuck you, because I was getting so lippy throughout the game.
Oh, no.
Yeah, that was heartbreaking.
Yeah, that was a crazy couple of weeks. Connor Rogers was a vegan/vegetarian for a while, and after that game, he went straight to the kebab shop and got a lamb kebab, and he just said, that's sort of just shifted. He's like, I'm giving up on all my beliefs. Yeah, that was crazy. And then the following year, I think it was the following year, we had these unbelievable arm wrestles, but it got a little bit better for you guys because the Marchbank save on the line. So similar result, the D's trailing most of the day, and then it just felt like we had it in us to have this burst late, and we were, and this is the Melbourne Footy Club across the last couple of years, but it felt like we're on top for like a quarter and a half, but we just can't score. Petrarca gets it, top of the 50, kicks it long. Marchbank didn't touch that. He did not touch the ball. And they went to the review, and he got grabbed on the line, so potentially that's an argument for another day. But he said that, it hit my fingers, but it goes past his like forearm. So maybe it flicked his forearm, but he was like, no, it touched my fingers. They didn't overturn it, and hold on. What was that one like?
I remember that night because I think the Matildas played that night as well in the the Women's World Cup.
Yeah, during the first quarter, people were cheering for the penalty shootout.
Yeah, so that was a really bizarre experience. And then the crowd packed out. And I think for context, before the Blues started winning these close ones, you guys won 4 or 5 in a row.
Yeah, there was one. There was one in COVID. There was the first game back after the season.
Yeah.
And we were up, and you guys closed it within like 2 points and almost pinched it at Marvel.
Yeah.
There was a handful before that as well. Just ridiculously close games.
Yeah. But 2023, that game, we were in the middle of our run. That's when everything started clicking.
Yeah.
And that was the magical Carlton run. And there was an inevitability about us after that win, from my perspective, because it's like, well, we've fallen over the line here. Like, that was not pretty. We've just defensively fallen over the line, and we've scrapped a win. And this is not the Carlton that I've come to know. We usually fall apart. So that was a good night.
Well, those games between us, Connor and I went to the Cozzy one, and we were up in the stands going, this looks like a scrappy... we're on the third level, and we both turned to each other and said, this is the lowest standard. Like, this has been embarrassing, this game. And then Cozzy kicks the winner, and I was watching all the footy shows the next day, and they were like, this was a finals type game. This was like the standard of finals, the pressure of finals. These are two teams that play the right way, contest and defense, and just throw. And I didn't pick that up from the stands because I was just seeing missed kicks and smothers and hands in and people getting ran down and tackled. And then from that point onwards, like the next couple of years, the D's and the Blues just had finals type game.
Yeah.
Like genuinely contest and defense. It's how you would view a prelim final. Like a team wins 60-56. And like you're there at the game going, this is a bit shit. There's no one scoring. But in prelims, that's the scoreline of prelims. Well, and then it did. It inevitably, we met in finals. Incredibly frustrating. It was a couple of weeks after the Marchbank. I remember I went back through our text last night for some research, and I texted you. I said that loss, that Marchbank touch has cost us second. So instead of the D's finishing second in 2023, and I can't remember who we would have played, but we ended up being fourth, and we played Collingwood the first week, who were just now that I'm thinking about it, if Marchbank didn't touch it, would Gus still be playing? Anyway, can't change it. But yeah, so we played Collingwood in that first week. I think we beat them earlier in the year. They were just all conquering that season. And we felt agonisingly short. We were the better team for 3 quarters. They got out to a 4-goal lead, and then we couldn't close it. And you can't be giving up a 4-goal lead in a qualifying final. But we were the better team for those 3 quarters. And then I just turned to Rog. I'm like, this is exciting. Like, it sets up for next week. And then the semi-final, which is one of the best games of footy I've ever been to.
Best moment of my life. Best 4 quarters. Best spectacle I've ever seen in my life.
Well, what I loved about the semi-final, so it's at the G Friday night, Saturday, one of the nights. It was a night.
It was a Friday night. It was a Friday night.
What I loved about that is I'd been to so many D's Carlton games where there's 45 at the G, which, it's a good crowd for the D's. But I think it was 97,000 or something.
Yeah, just a tick under.
And I was looking around going, Rog, this is our 2 teams. And we are box office. And we've brought the city of Melbourne alight. Like we are, when AC/DC comes to town, everyone comes to the G to watch. Like, everyone in town is talking about the D's and the Blues. It was so sick. And off the back of losing 3 finals in a row, it felt like, fuck, we got to win this one. Like, it feels like we're going to win this one. And we started so hot. Petrarca was on fire. I think we got out to a 4-goal lead, similar to what the Pies had done to us the week before. Scotty Rogers, Connor's dad, turns to me and he goes, "You're done. Like, we're done. Like we haven't showed up. We've almost like spent our tickets beating Sydney the week before, and the D's are on fire." And then from there, the clawback started. It was just this game of momentum.
I remember that period of time because the D's had won the flag not long before, and there was still the storyline of, no, we're still going to do it in Melbourne. And I still believed that the D's were the best team in the comp. They just needed to click.
Had a bit of aura as well. Like,
yeah.
For that 18-month, 24-month, like, people were scared to play us, which has never happened in my life.
It's so true. I mean, you did. You had the aura, and I remember early in that game just thinking, like, oh, it's the D's. When they click, good luck, because I'll go on and just win 5 in a row, whatever it was, and just win the flag. So yeah, when we started chipping away, I don't think I really believed we could win the game. I think Doherty went off in the first half with the shoulder. And
so did Akers.
Akers
was like running around with the sore shoulder all game. There was like 2 or 3 like really struggling to get through the game.
Yeah. So there was a bit of inevitability that we were going to lose, if I remember that night. When Walsh kicked his first, that was cool.
And he did the... that was right in front of me. I think it was like a little banana chisel, and he just does this cool-ass celebration. And that might have been your second goal or whatever, but that just... Like, it made it, potentially we'd missed a couple, and we should have been 4 or 5 in front. But after that one, I reckon it was only a kick and a half. And it was like, we haven't actually put as much damage on the scoreboard as we should have.
Yeah, and then... I think that right there, that night, is what's possible for Carlton. So when that roar is happening and they're locked in and they're all on the same page and the fans are like believing, because something happened in that second half where a little bit of belief might have kicked in with the fans, and it's also finals footy, so you can't be
Back into the third?
Back into the third. I think Walsh kicked his second and we might have hit the lead by 1 or 2. And then it was game on, and then anything was possible. And... yeah, the last.
I just remember in the last, so I reckon we kicked 0 goals 5 or something. Like, it was something ridiculous that every time the besties or Blue Abroad or someone goes, "Oh, I remember this night from a couple of years ago," I just look at the scoreboard and it's like 7 goals 19 or it's something ridiculous. And then it's like almost flipped the other way for the Blues. Like, not that drastically, but it's like you kicked a bit straighter. But I just look at the scoreboard going, fucking hell, like, we just need one of those 15 behinds to go through. But in the last quarter, I think Cozzy missed a couple. And then Clayton Oliver had a set shot from 55. And it gets to the goal line and Max Gawn touches it on the line. Like, no one else gets a hand to it. He stops it from going through. And I'm sitting there going, far out, we haven't put him to bed. We might have been like 11 points or a kick and a half in front. And an underrated goal that was the fire starter for you guys was Jesse Motlop. Out of the
banana?
Yeah, banana off a step. And that sailed over my head. And I went, oh my God, it is on here. You've probably told the story a million times, but talk us through the last sequence.
Yeah, that was...
Jakey Lever intercepts, and I thought, if we kill 30 seconds, get field position, let everyone set up, we're probably home.
That Jack Varney dump kick is the typical Carlton kick. When the pressure mounts, just bang it on the boot.
He had handballs on in front of him.
Yeah.
A handball and then a boot long, and we get a stoppage inside 50. We're home. We're fucking home.
Wiedering to even taking that kick through the corner, like, it was so un-Carlton like. It was not what we're not risky like that.
Yeah.
And when we are, we turn it over. So it was just like a slow motion sequence of events. Ollie Hollins marks the ball, but then the one where Doc marks the next play, like, because I'm on the wing at this point, so it's happening like on the fat side from where I am. So it didn't look like he was going to make it.
Well, and he's clearly going to get chopped off as well, and he's like sitting under it, and fucking
he's turned and like Moses, like the seas have parted, and then everyone in my bay and I think in the stadium, they just stood up because it was like, oh my God, like, oh my God, we could win this. Got goosebumps.
Yeah.
About it. But then like Akers out of nowhere kicks the goal, like. Yeah, it's complete pandemonium.
Judd McVie, I thought it was like an error, to overcommit. an error that will be he'll make up for it at some point in his Melbourne career because he's going to be an awesome player. And he's gone to Freo, so what the fuck, Judd? You've overrun it, and now you've left us. And I'll never forget that.
Or forgive him.
Yeah, or forgive him. No, I'm going to boo him when he's at the G next for that incident. Yeah, and then the kick long, Akers was just incredible the whole game. He had a good season that year, but that was one of the best performances. We were just all out of shape. Like, I think that switch kick completely had us off guard. Judd McVie overruns it, which opens the play. Like, even like there's so many like missed opportunities, but just to not overcommit, accept that you're not going to get to the contest and just hold Doc up potentially shifts the whole universe. But it was meant to be. And once you kicked it, I knew we weren't going to win. And just the emotion on Connor's face, on his dad's face, we tasted a little bit of success, albeit over in WA. Like, I won't change that for the world. And it was 4 finals losses in a row, double straight sets. But I was just like, there was a part of me that was pumped for Connor, and I was in it amongst Blues fans as well. And I had a really, really good night at the footy. And it was just all like it's weird to say, but it was awesome. It was awesome to see.
It was a memory for a whole generation of people, because prior to that, it was 2013. That was the last time we played in finals, and we shouldn't have even been there. Essendon got kicked out and we played Richmond and pinched it from them. And so it was for the first time in like a whole generation, like it was united. The Carlton supporters of the past who saw the flags, the Carlton supporters of the present who grew up with nothing but failure. And then for one beautiful moment, like that siren goes and we start believing, wow, we're going to a prelim. Oh man, there was like a release. There's a video of me somewhere and I'm jumping up and down. Someone's taken a video of me and like my face is purple. Like it's all just released. And I remember the stadium shaking that night.
Yeah.
The final siren. I don't know if that was just my perspective, but limbs everywhere.
No, well, yeah, the whole joint just erupted. It was crazy. It was actually, I don't think I've ever experienced anything like that before.
Can you imagine if it was grand final day and like the day that the Blues do it?
Yeah. Oh, there'll be an earthquake.
Like that final siren.
So what people, like, I had never considered before because my team hadn't played finals or been successful in finals is like when people, like when you mentioned like, oh, imagine us winning the grand final and that reaction, what you forget is you get a qualifying one where you go, yes, we've won the qualifier. And then you get a prelim one where you go, yes, we're on the prelim. And then you get the grand final. So when people do mention that grand final one, it's like you're almost signing yourself up for 3 of those. It's, yeah. Obviously, I did it in the lounge room and it felt good at the time, but being at the G, to win a prelim at the G, fuck, that would be incredible.
Because that's the people's game, isn't it? That's the one where more fans are at that game than the corporates.
Yeah, and I think there's just something not, like, obviously, and this is a controversial opinion, but I think a grand final is a bit of a free hit in terms of, like, if you lose a grand final, there's an element of, you guys have been awesome, you've had a great year, and, like, it was a good contest or whatever. So, to win the prelims, I don't know, I think it's such a feather in the cap, such a big moment for your club. So it's almost, it's not as good, but I feel like it would be up there.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that bit right there we've just done about the semi-final that night. It just, honestly, it gives me life. It just ignites me. It's something so far out of my control that can bring me so much joy. Like, I love it. And that's why we do it. Like, those moments.
What was the fan cams like that night?
So I remember I did it for an hour and I was like, guys, I got to go out. Like,
yeah.
like, I love you all, but we'll do this again tomorrow. Like, everyone go out, go and have fun. The fan cams were epic that night. A lot of tears, just pure joy. And you don't get 2,600 people watching the fan cams that night, but the people who are watching, are just so happy. And I much prefer half the viewership, but Carlton are winning, then, having opposition tune in and like whatever, like fuck the views if it means we're winning and we're winning, a semi-final and getting into a prelim and hopefully winning a granny. Like that's why I do it, to document the journey until the premiership. That's the whole like backbone of why Blue Abroad exists. So
I think if you do salute and you're interstate, and say you win a gritty one at Optus, a qualifier, I reckon the views will be as high. Like I reckon a qualifier, a prelim.
But they'll come. Like
something about finals, like, but yeah, like I have experienced similar where the D's lost to Geelong in 2018, kick on the siren, we're beating them all game. I drummed Geelong up as the enemy because I'd hated them growing up. And I just remember that sailing through. And a thought that I had was, like, one, fuck my life, get me out of here. But two was, this is going to be good content. Like it was just a thought that I had. As a creator, I was like, unfortunately, you know, beating the Pies isn't going to get as many views as the Cats winning one. I suppose any kick after the siren is going to get views. So,
100%.
But yeah, I remember thinking at the time, like, this will do well. How are you seeing the content space at the moment? Obviously, you've been in it for a long time and it evolves so much. Like, back in the day, I'd make an 8-minute YouTube video and, you know, brush my hands and, you know, move on. But now that 8-minute YouTube video has to be 4 Instagram reels, 3 shorts, 2 TikToks, and I don't know, whatever else you got to do with it. It's crazy that the packaging has changed across the last 3 or 4 years, and it just continues to change. Like, once you wrap your head around TikTok, YouTube Shorts pop up. Once you wrap your head around YouTube Shorts, carousels on Instagram become a thing. How have you adapted, and how do you sort of see the space at the minute?
It's really interesting, my perspective on that, because I definitely do not do as much of the marketing as maybe what some people say I should. I don't put many clips on Instagram of my live streams. I don't put many clips on TikTok. I don't do a lot of the clipping. It's weird. Like I've never, and this is a common theme all throughout my time when I was working for companies, and the self-promotion, like doing LinkedIn posts, and like I just get a bit uncomfortable doing that. I just let the work do the talking, and I'm really wired like that. So I don't do as much as I could be doing in that regard, but I do it in my way. My magic is on the long format during the live streams, getting people in, making them feel comfortable, and then, you know, absorbing that footy magic that comes from the fan interaction. So yeah, the industry is interesting. I think one of the most fascinating parts as we move forward is, I mean, when there's a reality that, oh, you could do this for a living, how are people going to react then? Like, how do you act when you could get everything you wanted? And I think the best test of anyone, man or woman, is how they act when they get everything they want. So whether it's the brand deal, the money, whether it's the notoriety, like whatever it is, whatever they're actually deeply after internally, I think that's going to be really important. And, you know, we're here to evolve the game. And I think we've just got to be really careful not to just become another version of what we already kind of despise, with the clickbaity stuff, with the nitpicking and, you know, Caro's arrow and, like, you know, the gotcha moments. And so I don't know how it goes from there, but yeah, I try and stay in my lane. And Pommy the Great Man actually has said something to me many years ago, which I actually hold really true to this day. And I think it's brilliant. He's like, just post your shitty little content and fuck off.
Yeah.
Like, just do what you got to do, post your stuff, enjoy what you're doing, and like get the fuck out. Like, don't get caught up in anything else other than what you want to do, and don't take yourself too seriously and things like that. So I try and stick to that. I try and stick to, you know, who I am and just focus on what I'm doing. But I think it's amazing what the industry is and what it was and what it's becoming and the opportunities that come from it. And yeah, I do look at the bright side of things. There's always fears of what could happen, but I'm just grateful. Like, mate, we're sitting here and like there will be people watching this. Like, that's ridiculous.
Well, I'm not sure about that, but if we go off the first couple of they will, especially now that you're on. No, I think that's a really good point, and it's hard. I've experienced all sorts of challenges on pretty much everything that you've said. Cookson was massive on keeping me grounded.
Yeah.
But I'm also naturally anxious, negative, self-conscious that I would keep myself grounded as well. And then there's parts where you want to lean in and get confidence. Like, you know, some videos will start to work and a part of you wants to be like, oh, this is awesome and it's working, people enjoying it. Well done, and pat yourself on the back. But then I almost overthink and second guess and go, well, if I'm patting myself on the back, I'm getting a big head and I don't want to get a big head. So then I'll internally start championing myself, which creates imposter syndrome. So navigating like the adoration or, you know, the audience being receptive, but then also like believing it's a really tough thing for someone who's an individual to navigate properly.
It's an amazing point you bring up, and you do have to learn how to do it because, yeah, I'll get more applause than what I'll get criticism, but, you know, naturally as a human being, you look for the criticism and sometimes it sticks out more. And yeah, you got to know, like sometimes criticism can be worth more than compliments and the compliments can be overbearing. And so, yeah, you know, you got to figure out a way to just stay level. I mean, we've chatted for many years, as I said, and from my perspective, you've been your worst critic to yourself. Like I'll say like, mate, you know, like look at what you're doing. Like look at where we are today. Like if we had said this is what you're doing 5 years ago, you'd be wrapped.
Yeah, well,
and,
so
you know,
like my brain goes like, oh, you're doing the pod, and I go, but the listeners, you know, aren't the numbers aren't at a level yet, and you know, my editing on the last one's not great. But you know, and sometimes I can get consumed by that. Almost this perfectionism. And that's why like Cook was always great whenever I chat to him about giving me a pump up when I need, but also bringing me down when I need. But I've sort of learned that if I can learn to switch that off, it is my superpower. Like identifying where things need to improve is how they improve, but just not letting it bleed into everything. Because you can let it bleed. Like you can go on a date with your partner and be like, oh, we're late and this isn't the table I booked. And then it's like, that doesn't need to be criticized or overthought.
Yeah.
But if you have that mindset, you almost look everywhere and, oh, this post could have been better. This, you know, you can't let that consume you.
Yeah. I say this to a lot of people. Like I was 27, 28 when I started doing content. So I had a bit more understanding of who I was. Not total and always learning. But yeah, I do feel for youngsters coming through who are 18, 19 or even younger. It's like, oh, you still got, like, life's going to hit you still and life's going to hit me still. I haven't had kids yet, like haven't gone through all of this. So I had a bit more grounding within myself and I had learned the lessons in life, some harsh ones before I really started putting myself out there. And that's tricky because, yeah, we're content creators, but we're also humans who are living human experiences and making human mistakes and having to learn real human lessons as well. So, yeah, I mean, I think you should just trust yourself a bit more. I've always said this to you. You've got the right framework of ethics and morals. And one thing I've always admired about you is you've never come across to me as like, I'm Caden McDonald, the guy that I've got this many subscribers and I'm the pioneer. Like, I'll tell you that, but you'll never act to me like you are that. And I've always really respected that about you. You're just Caden, just Cados. Like,
yeah,
not defined by your subscribers.
I appreciate that. I genuinely don't even think that.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned on the last pod to Jamo, someone in the industry, I was chatting to them and they said, oh, I wouldn't have thought you would notice that you've got such a big account. And I went, what the fuck? Like that was one of the weirdest things that's ever been said to me because I was like, I didn't even know how to take that. But the way I define my account, and this is me nitpicking or whatever, but this is just the truth. Like I have, and we've spoken about this. You mentioned years ago, it's the race to 10 years.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that is so true because years ago I was making really whack sort of skits with Cooko just on my YouTube channel and I got 1,000 subscribers. And I remember thinking at the time, you know, it's taken 8 months to get 1,000 subscribers. I now know I can get 100,000 because if I can get 1,000, I just need to do that 100 times. And I just tweaked. And I almost made like an agreement with myself. Oh, you know, it took 8 months to 12 months to get, you know, 1,000. It might take 10 years to get 100,000. And in my head, I'm like, well, I'm not doing anything for 10 years. Like I've got nothing on. Yeah. My calendar's
got
clear.
No plans.
Yeah, I got no plans. So, and in my head, I realized, you know, it took 100 videos to get 1,000 followers. it might take 1,000 videos. And I just went, if it takes 1,000 videos and 10 years, sign me up. Like, I'm fucking excited.
Yeah.
Like, it's not 50 years, 10, like, fuck, I'm keen. So you've mentioned before it's the race to 10 years, but when we speak about the 10-year journey, and I haven't hit 100,000 subscribers yet, but that's 10,000 followers per year if you go off that metric. That's not too many where you can't keep tabs on people and build like that's not so many that like I don't see things. So when someone was like, "Oh, you got a big account," I didn't think you'd see it. I'm like, "What? I've got 10,000 followers for 10 years. Like that's not an overwhelming amount where I don't know. It was such a weird comment.
I think that's the difference, and that's what. If anyone was to ask me what's the biggest piece of advice for growing any account on any platform, it's getting in there in the trenches and understanding who your community is and building relationships with them. And the ones that were watching you when you had 34 viewers will be there when you've got thousands of viewers. And yeah, so it's the race to 10 years. And then after that, it becomes the race to 20 years.
Yeah.
And it sounds so cliche and like,
20 years, Jesus.
You know, Vossi coach type process over outcome, but it's true. It's so true. I don't care what the subscriber count of my channel will be whenever, like I really couldn't care less. I get to do what I love to do, talk about the Blues and footy for a living. That's it. Everything that comes to, I touch wood, I could pass away tomorrow and I would be fulfilled knowing that I died doing what I absolutely love and I'm true to myself and that's it. Everything I'm grateful and everything else that comes after this is what comes. And, you know, I think there's something in that for, even if you go all the way to the top of the AFL, like this power struggle and ego and like money's not enough. You earn certain money, then it becomes less about money, more about like power. Mate, fuck all of that. Like we're going to die one day. We're so insignificant in the grand scheme of everything. Like just, you're here for a little bit to contribute something and then you're gone. So just enjoy it while we're here.
Yeah, I love that. I think, it's about, for me, it's about trying to stay grateful because like, I think like you say, it's the race to 10 years. I also think it's the ability to stay stoic and not crack. Like I've seen people have a really difficult 3 or 4 months on the socials or whatever, and then they'll crack. They come out with a video that shows weakness and not in an empowering way. Like it comes across weak to the viewer. And I think I love the smoke and mirrors of showbiz where like you're struggling for ideas, but the content keeps coming out. You're struggling mentally. Like you might be a little bit down. I'm sort of the old school belief of like, if I'm down and the camera comes on, I'm fucking up. Like, yeah. and maybe that's less authentic, but I think, the viewer doesn't need Mopey McDonald coming on and having a sook for 8 minutes. I don't mind. Like, I get up when the lights and the camera come on. So, I just think the ability to endure and not crack is a big thing as well, because a lot of people, because it gets tough. Like, I probably had the hardest 18 months from a content perspective, in the last 18 months. And once again, put it into perspective, that's, it's insignificant and content is what it is. But to be honest, like content almost is my entire thought process in life. So when I feel like I'm stuck creatively and stuck from a content standpoint, it makes me feel like I'm stuck as a human. And that's probably where I was towards the end of last year. I just felt stuck in the mud. And I don't know, once again, that person making the comment, you've got a big account. Like people might go, oh, you've been doing this for so long. How can you get stuck? And it's like, well, because nothing feels like it's guaranteed. Just because you're 10 years in doesn't mean your next video is going to work. I feel like you almost have to keep earning the audience. Like just because I had some success 8 years ago, 7 years ago, I don't think that means my next video is going to work.
Yeah.
That almost irks me because I feel really misunderstood.
Yeah. People will think you're an overnight success. They don't see the years of struggle and self-doubt before. People who will say, oh, like the channel, like Blue Abroad, you've done so well. Like they don't know that I remember like 10 straight days. I had like 86 cents in my bank account. I was just like dead broke, 28, overweight, living with mum and dad, like just everything had fallen apart, but I just kept chipping away. So I think that's just the way the world works. It's interesting because people will say whatever they will today, but it's like, well, where were you when there was 3 viewers and I was still doing this, you know? But again, you choose what you value to absorb in your mind, and that's that.
A good piece of, like a good lens to look through. I copped a comment years ago. It was like a hate comment. Like some kid goes, oh, it was 5 years ago. Some kid goes, oh, love your stuff, mate. You know, I'd love to do something similar when I'm older. And one of the top comments was, you know, an AFL content creator doesn't earn anything. Like it's like, just rinse this little kid. And in my head, I'm like, oh man, society's gone so far that like, because I don't have a Jake Paul mansion and I'm not flexing Lamborghinis, like some people view that as failing as a YouTuber or a creator. But at that time, I just moved up to an apartment in Melbourne that I was renting. And I'd done it full time for like 5 years at that point. Like I'm waking up, you know, on Mondays and Tuesdays and picking and choosing what I want to talk about and create content with. I was in and around, you know, at that time I was going to media events or getting invited down to create content with, you know, footy experts and building relationships with them, where when I go down, it's not, oh, what's this for? It's like, oh, Cados Co. Like I've now built relationships. And I remember seeing that comment, like, they don't earn anything. I'm like, I'm sort of earning in and around as much as all my mates who work full time. Maybe a little bit less. As a content creator, I'm like, that's a fucking win and a half. Like I'm sort of breaking even. I'm working full time and I'm not like struggling. I'm like, that is making it. And that's all I need.
Yeah. Bills are paid, lights are on.
Yeah.
You're fed, and then just away you go. Whatever happens in the next 10 years will be interesting because, yeah, somewhere along the line, a new form of currency was created, which was attention.
Yeah.
And if you can garner attention and eyeballs, you can then market it and do so many things with it and funnel it. That's another conversation for another day, maybe another podcast. But yeah, we'll see. I think this 10-year period that we're living through right now, we'll look back on as the golden era. I think the next 10, 20 years we'll start getting restrictions placed and things like that. But like, I think we are in the sweet spot. Like we got, like, I thank my lucky stars that I chose to give it a crack when I did. And I'm sure you're the same as well, because whatever's coming from here on in is going to be because you chose to keep going or start or whatever it is back when you did.
Nah, that's awesome. Yeah, I agree with you. Like it's very grateful, very lucky, and it's really cool. I'll probably try and wrap up soon, but I wanted to just ask you about like some of the people that are doing similar stuff in the space. There's a bunch of fan channels from different clubs and whatnot popping up now, and I think the way you've collabed with everyone, but people doing similar stuff to you has been awesome. How does it feel to share some of your experiences with people from another club? You go from rivals to almost colleagues to almost people in the same space. How's that been?
Yeah, it's interesting. I had this conversation with Swoop Luke, because I think when we started, we had a bit of a rivalry and we'd sort of go at each other a bit online and it got a bit testy. But I think the point that I made was we're not competing for a premiership.
Yeah.
So your success doesn't take away from my success, and we're not in this league where, you know, it's the race to this and I'm going to be the champion this year and you might finish second or third, or, you know, be in the bottom 8 and rebuild, whatever. Like, so it's unique that we're not, I don't believe we really are competing against each other. I love the collaborative aspect of it. I love also getting out of the Carlton bubble, speaking to people that support other teams and getting their perspective, and had the Hoops crew on last night previewing the Carlton Geelong practice match, and he was telling me about, like, you know, Ollie Dempsey and things that are happening around Geelong that I just wouldn't have thought of. And so I love that. I'm down to chat with as many people from other clubs and other channels as possible. And yeah, I don't look at anyone as a rival. I'm pretty secure in myself and what I'm doing. And so I don't feel intimidated, or I just don't get that from other creators. Like there is abundance in this game.
Yeah, 100%. And I'd be surprised if Collingwood and Carlton supporters are choosing, like, it's you're doing similar things where you're a voice for the fans, but the market's completely different.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I've got a lot of respect for, Jake from Saints TV, Swoop Luke, Pommy. I work with them on a show called Footy Abroad, and so I've worked with them a bit more than most others, and I just got a lot of respect for them all. And I can call them to say, "Oh, are you experiencing this?" You and I have had that phone call nearly every year because it was a lonely place at the start where there weren't many other people to just launch ideas off or share feelings about things, because it was a very isolating experience being a creator. So now we've got this big network of people, and for the most part, people are pretty willing to offer their time and advice and that sort of thing.
No, it's been good. Like, I think, across the last couple of years, it shifted. Like, because I was pretty much the only one I knew doing it full time for a little bit. It's like it would be a Tuesday arvo, and I'm at a cafe, and everyone's working or at uni or whatever, and there was no one to really bounce off at that time. And now it's like, it's crazy. A lot of people are doing it full time. They're accessible to chat and pick their ideas and pick their brains, and it feels safer. Like, I feel safer knowing that there's so many people I can turn to. There's a lot more people with a shared experience, and ultimately, like, a rising tide lifts all boats. Like, everyone's really gunning for the same thing, and I don't know, there's just a lot of good people out there, which it's exciting. It's been good. Tez, I think that's it. I've taken up way more of your time than I should have, but I really appreciate you hopping on the pod. Good luck to the Baggers tonight. No injuries. Towel the cats up. Set yourself up for a big season. And thanks for coming on, and all the best for everything you got going this year.
No, thank you, and thanks very much for having me and giving me your time, and just stoked to see that you've launched this, and I'm just happy for you, mate. Really am.
No, I appreciate it. Thanks to everyone who tuned in, and we'll see you next time for another pod. Cheers, guys.